Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are unpacking a massive, truly global shift. We are looking at the absolutely explosive growth of artificial intelligence and the semiconductor industry, and how that breakneck growth is fundamentally colliding with the urgent need for environmental responsibility. We're calling this the AI Balancing Act, from silicon to sustainability. $2 trillion. Yeah, that's with the T. According to the 2026 Semiconductor Outlook report by Tech Insights, this is exactly where the semiconductor market is heading, and it's being driven almost entirely by our completely insatiable demand for AI. It's a staggering projection, and honestly, it sets the stage for everything we're about to dig into today. Okay, let's dive into this, because there's a lot to cover. We're going to start by breaking down that massive $2 trillion boom, then see how AI is actually changing the workplace right now. After that, we have to talk about the hidden environmental costs of all this tech, look at the sustainable engineering solutions being rolled out, and finally, map out the long road to net zero. So, let's talk about that $2 trillion boom and what semiconductors are going to look like by 2026. Tech Insights actually lays out 5 major expectations for 2026 that are actively reshaping the entire landscape. First up, AI processing is mostly going to stay in the cloud, simply because large language models just keep growing and growing in parameters. Second, the shift to next-generation 2-nanometer transistor architectures is going to seriously boost performance while cutting power. Third, the memory market is bouncing back, led by advanced HBM4 chips, that's the high-bandwidth memory that's literally crucial for running AI, and those are hitting volume production. Fourth, advanced packaging and silicon photonics promise to slash networking power consumption by up to 70%, which is huge. And finally, well, geopolitics. We're seeing shifting tariffs and trade restrictions creating a wildly fluctuating global business environment that tech giants have to navigate every single day. But how is all this macro-level tech actually translating on the ground? Well, AI is officially entering the workplace, and businesses are seeing some real ROI. In a recent WION interview, Puneet Sethi, the vice president of enterprise business at Samsung India, really hit the nail on the head. Talking about business-to-business AI adoption, he pointed out, with AI adoption, it's easy for them to measure the productivity, which was not possible before. Businesses are finally seeing tangible return on investment. Like, by just integrating AI into everyday tasks like Salesforce automation, companies can directly track efficiency gains that used to be completely invisible. Now, what's really fascinating here is how AI is moving way beyond just that smartphone in your pocket and entering very distinct physical spaces. In education, you've got interactive e-boards that are actively enhancing how teachers and students interact. In healthcare, AI is being embedded straight into medical ecosystems. But as these verticals digitize, security becomes the name of the game. That's exactly why defense-grade software platforms like Knox are deployed to aggressively protect all this localized data. On top of that, companies are utilizing massive R&D centers like the ones in India to innovate these solutions not just for local markets, but for complex global enterprise requirements. And this brilliantly illustrates the tension at the heart of our story. Because with all this explosive, incredibly resource-heavy growth, there's a hidden environmental cost. To really grasp the consequences of this AI boom and the massive corporate response required to handle it, we're using the freshly released Samsung Electronics Sustainability Report 2026 as our guide. Since they build both the underlying microscopic chips and the final consumer products, their report reveals the truly staggering effort it takes to ensure our technological progress doesn't end up trashing the planet. You know, the crucial thing to understand right off the bat is how a giant tech company actually divides its environmental efforts. Samsung basically splits its operations into 2 main divisions. On one side, we have DX, or device experience. This is the finished product division, your smartphones, your smart TVs, home appliances. On the flip side is DS, or device solutions. This is the hardcore semiconductor and memory chip manufacturing division. Their environmental impacts and therefore their sustainability targets are drastically different. I mean, manufacturing a microscopic 2-nanometer chip requires vastly different resources than assembling a refrigerator. So, how do they actually mitigate the impact of both these massive divisions? It all comes down to engineering sustainable solutions. For the DX, or finished products division, addressing climate change starts with power procurement, and they have made absolutely staggering progress here, transitioning nearly 95% of their total energy to renewable sources by the end of 2025. That means the energy powering the assembly line for your next smart TV is likely coming from the sun or wind. This includes signing entirely new power purchase agreements across global manufacturing sites from Vietnam and India to Turkey and Egypt. They are well on track to hit 100% renewable for this entire division by 2027. But hey, it's not just about electricity, right? It's about the physical materials themselves. As of 2025, the application rate of recycled plastic in plastic components across DX products has reached 33.7%. This means the core principles of a circular economy are physically entering our workplaces and our homes. The very devices driving the AI revolution are increasingly being built out of repurposed materials. Now, let's switch gears back to the semiconductor side, the DS division. Chip manufacturing is incredibly, intensely thirsty work. To combat this, they've introduced a water-positive concept. And this goes way beyond just conserving and reusing water in their own fab plants. It actually means returning an amount of water back to nature that exceeds what they originally took. Through these engineering efforts, they successfully replenished 240,000 tons of water resources. Ultimately, though, the absolute best way to reduce environmental impact is to engineer devices that simply need less power to begin with. This is a direct, head-on sustainability tactic to counter the famously power-hungry nature of AI infrastructure. For finished products, DX models saw a 34.4% average power consumption reduction compared to 2019. For semiconductors, it's all about next-gen memory. The new HBM4 and PM1763 chips offer vastly improved power efficiency. Looking ahead, their 2030 goal is to improve HBM energy efficiency by 2.5 times, and server SSDs, the storage drives that power massive data centers, by a massive 4 times, directly optimizing the backbone of AI. All of this incredible engineering and investment is paving the long, complex road to net zero. And to get there, they rely on a highly structured, step-by-step roadmap for their new environmental strategy. It's like a giant puzzle designed to systematically manage everything from climate change and the circular economy to water use and even capturing the airborne pollutants generated during semiconductor manufacturing. Let's move through this and see how it builds, because these milestones are pretty ambitious. Starting right now in 2025, they achieved platinum zero waste to landfill validation at all global manufacturing sites. By 2027, the goal is 100% renewable energy for all DX business sites. Hitting 2030, the DX division aims for net zero scope 1 and 2 emissions, meaning both their direct operations and the energy they purchase will be carbon neutral, and carbon capture technology will be actively applied to the semiconductor lines. Finally, the ultimate milestone is set for 2050. Company-wide net zero scope 1 and 2 emissions alongside a massive goal of collecting 25 million tons of e-waste cumulatively. But let's be real, industrial manufacturing is always going to have some physical footprint. You can't just erase it completely. So, to handle those tough residual greenhouse gas emissions that are hard to minimize internally, they're actively expanding nature-based solutions. By investing in global biodiversity, things like agroforestry projects in India and mangrove projects in Indonesia and Egypt, they have secured over 1.42 million tons of CO2 equivalent offset credits, literally utilizing nature to pull carbon right out of the atmosphere. Which leads us to one absolutely vital question. We've seen how the semiconductor market is sprinting toward $2 trillion, almost entirely fueled by AI. And we've seen the incredible engineering and massive investments required to mitigate the environmental impact of that explosive growth. But here's what you should really take away from all of this today. As AI parameters grow exponentially in the cloud, and as these technologies become deeply, permanently embedded in our workplaces and our daily lives, can our global sustainability efforts truly scale fast enough to match them? It is the ultimate balancing act of our era. Thanks so much for joining us on this explainer, and keep learning.